All right, we're back. Tasty Crypto Show. I'm Ryan Grace, and with me today, of course, Shelley Van.
Hello.
What's up, Shelley?
Not much. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like we haven't been in here in the studio together in a while. Getting lazy over here. I am personally. Skipped Monday. We did a VOD. When you see that, it's a sign that I've got something else going on, or I'm sick or out or something. But no, we've just been busy in the cave.
Very busy.
So running the video on demand on Monday. But we're back. The chat is back. If you're not in the chat, I don't know what you're doing. Get over to the Tasty Live YouTube channel and pop open the live chat and type something crazy. Type some crazy shit in the chat.
Crazy shit.
You have a question for the chat today?
I want to know everybody's favorite song or favorite band.
Okay.
Who's yours? Or what is
favorite band? I don't know why this just came to mind. It's not my favorite band, but you said favorite band and the Goo Goo Dolls just popped into my mind.
Wow.
Is that weird? That's weird, right?
Okay. All right.
Why?
Do you know a Goo Goo Dolls song like off the
I know
cuff?
a couple of Goo Goo Dolls songs. Absolutely. The Goo Goo Dolls hail from Buffalo, New York.
Oh, okay.
That's not too far from where I hail from. Maybe that's why they popped into my mind.
Okay.
How about you? Favorite band?
Oh,
Go.
It changes all the time. Right now, I've been listening to a lot of Glass Animals.
Okay. New album came out recently.
Yep.
It's a good one.
And I'm going to see Deep Sea Diver next week. So they're a smaller band, but they're playing at a really tiny venue, which is my favorite. So
Awesome.
I'm excited. But shout out to Lone Sophos, Emmett, Messoffs9. We got some friends in chat.
We got Pink Floyd, Dave Matthews Band. All right. Yeah. A couple favorite bands out there.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with Pink Floyd.
Where do you want to start today? We've got some price action to possibly discuss. I think last time you and I were together on the show, put together a liquidity pool. Presumably, it's not doing very well, given some of what we've seen in ETH. So we did an ETH USDC pool. ETH is down about 50% in the last 3 months. So our pool is probably out of range. We'll check on that. We're going to talk more about Uniswap, decentralized exchange, liquidity pools, favorite topic of the show. We can talk price action. The S&P, I believe, stocks got dumped today, but Bitcoin, 84.5, holding up strong, I might say. What do you make of it?
I mean, I told you so to some people comes to mind.
It is
The doubters.
It's quietly, I think people are sleeping on crypto right here, right? There's a lot of distractions, obviously, at the moment. The 24/7 fire hose of news, announcements, tweets, tariffs, etc., is kind of blasting you in the face each and every day. But in the face of a lot of volatility, we've got the platform up on the screen. So let me just jump to the Tasty Trade watch list here. Take a look at the S&P. Let me get off of a weekly, 1 day. You could see fell quite a bit here today. Actually, let me get the S&P price up here so I can get you an actual.
While you're doing that, what up, Jose and Deal Generators, a Metallica fan. I saw Metallica last summer.
Awesome.
That was on my bucket list. So
I hear they're good.
very good.
Yeah. S&P down 2.2%. Bitcoin up about 1% right now. This has been resilient, I guess, to say the least. But I think people are asleep on crypto, given that crypto isn't going to be driven by trade policy. There's correlations at times with equities, and we've seen that when volatility picks up, crypto, Bitcoin, etc., the tokens are not immune. But I think on a forward basis, you've got to look at, okay, what comes next in terms of policy, response, where are we in 6 months? And maybe I'm just talking my book, but if I look at Bitcoin, it seems to be, again, holding up. I'll probably eat my words here, but holding up relatively well, just given how stocks have traded and just about everything else. You can probably throw bonds in there over the last couple of weeks. When I put some slides together, even though we don't have any slides today, we'll run our expected moves on the fly. But putting those together, we're actually higher than where we were last time we put our performance dashboards together. So maybe that's encouraging. That said, ETH still not looking so hot.
No. And yet, I'm buying. Are you buying?
Yeah, I've been adding a little bit, recently. And we can, why don't we jump over to the trading view charts as well, because we have a couple other data points in there that are helpful for what we want to talk about on the show. But recently I've been adding a little bit more to Solana. I have an ETH position that I've held for a very long time. I've added to it here and there. But if I look at some of my trading activity over the last couple of days, I've been buying SWI, I've been buying Solana, a little bit of Bitcoin on the dips. But one thing I want to point out here, and we can throw our indicators up in just a second. I guess actually let me turn those on really quickly so you can see the shift in momentum. So this is what we track on the price and volatility dashboards in the weekly email, which apologies, that one didn't go out this morning. The market update will go out tomorrow, and then we'll have the Saturday on a regularly scheduled basis. But Bitcoin back on a daily in neutral territory, if you just look at this from a kind of price performance or price momentum perspective. Not so much the same when I look at ETH, very bearish here. Solana back into neutral territory. We can flip through a number of others. I know XRP on the tastytrade platform still looking kind of bearish here. Here's SWI looking kind of bearish. But when you look at both Bitcoin and Solana, they've moved back into that positive territory, which is step one for that transition from we were bearish to we're back to bullish. I will caution everyone. We saw this at the end of March when we wrote about it. I think the email was titled Signs of Life, and it didn't last very long. So I'm not getting too excited yet, but something to call out. That said, want to just jump really quickly to the Solana versus ETH chart. So then when you think about, okay, I've got a limited amount of capital, at least I do. Where should I spend it? What should I buy? What should I trade on a relative basis? Well, doesn't mean that it's going to continue, but for a while now, and this is where we can also look at that performance, you got that trigger at the beginning of April, or the signal, and Solana over ETH has been a decent trade, or just, I guess, on a relative basis saying, hey, I'm going to allocate capital to Solana versus ETH. Here's ETH BTC. It doesn't get any worse than that. Here's Solana versus BTC. So I kind of cycle through those three to just see how is ETH trading versus Bitcoin, how is Solana trading versus ETH, and then ultimately how is Solana trading versus Bitcoin, given that Bitcoin market cap dominance is right up there at, well, really multi-year highs. Let's zoom out a little bit here. Yeah, I mean, look at that. Since January 2023, it's been Bitcoin over everything.
Yeah. Never have enough.
What have you been buying?
A lot of the same as you. I have not bought any meme coins lately, except for the funny things we're doing on Zora. So tokenized content. I don't know if we're calling those meme coins.
Yeah, I guess what would you call those? It's tokenized content?
Yeah, like content coins.
Okay. We've got Pump Me Daddy, Fud Daddy. So that's the Tom and Tony. I keep wanting to call them bobbleheads, but
they're stress ball heads.
Stress ball heads. Pictures of them that have been tokenized. I know we're getting deep into the weeds here. And then most recently,
Mr. Wallet.
Mr. Wallet has made an appearance.
Yes.
If
shout out to Lawrence.
If people don't know what we're talking about, which presumably if they're not watching Beans, I don't know what they're doing. But if you're watching Beans, you know what we're talking about. But if you don't, for some reason, where do you find this?
Zora.co.
Okay.
So Zora.co. And then just find us, Tasty Crypto account, and you'll see the ridiculousness that's unfolding. I think Fud Daddy is in the lead for number of holders. But if you attend...
That's the Tom
yes.
Squishy Head.
Yep.
Okay.
And I haven't looked today, so I could be wrong. Anything can happen in a very short period of time. But we do give away like 100K bags of these tokens on Beans. So
sounds like a lot, but I'm guessing it's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So but it could be. But it could be.
Maybe. Hopefully for everyone that's a holder. Mr. Wallet. I do not own Mr. Wallet, and I actually don't own any FUD Daddy.
You're
I only got I've got the Tony
sleeping.
head. Yeah, I've got to get in there. And so that's on the Base chain, as I understand it. So you connect your wallet to Base. You've got to have some ETH on Base, and then you can buy
pennies worth,
30 cents worth of this, and you own the content. Or you own the token that's associated with the content. It's fun.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, I love it. I love seeing some of the tweets that have gone out. And again, most recently, Mr. Wallet. It cracks me up.
Next one might be Sleepy Ryan.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I'm excited to see that one. Going to very quickly here, just punch in a couple of numbers. I know we're doing this on the fly. We don't have our expected moves, but just to update that at a price of 84,500 for Bitcoin and a volatility right now of right around 50%. The expected move over the next week, or on a forward basis here, is just under $6,000, so 5,868. That's not static, as we know. As the price changes, if I just put in the new price and a slightly different volatility, you're going to get a slightly different range. But approximately, you're looking for a move of about $6,000 within one standard deviation, meaning basically 2/3 of the time. So your range there is then about 78.5, 78,631 to be specific, and about 90,000 on the upside. So we're looking at 78.5 to 90,000 as the one standard deviation range, or think about it as a $6,000 expected move
For the week.
That's right. For the day, if you just look at this in the next 24 hours, what might you expect? Range of 87.1 to 81.8 on the downside. So if you trade those shorter term ranges, and this is not predictive in any way, the implied volatility is a forward-looking indicator. We use implied vol as an input here, but it gives you a sense of realistic expectations. If you look at the price of Bitcoin, you say, well, in the next day, I think it's going to go to 50. Well, maybe, but the relatively efficient option market is pricing in, a one standard deviation or higher probability, a 60% chance or so of 81.8, call it 82, and 87 on the upside.
Good. Can we do ETH and then jump into our liquidity pool?
Yes. Let's do ETH really quickly. So we got an ETH price of 1590. Let's just call it 1600 here. And I've got a vol of 70%. That's a 30-day implied volatility, annualized implied volatility. Expected move 156. Weekly range is 144.4. So let's call it about 1450 on the downside and 1750 on the upside. Daily move $70, 1530 on the downside, 1670 on the upside.
Nice.
Let's talk liquidity pools. Are you ready to take a look? I'm a little afraid because we haven't looked at this since we put it on, and it really quickly went out of range.
Yeah. We knew it was out of range. It's not.
Yeah, we've lost some money, sadly. Started with right around $300. Might have been a little bit less. Generated $589 in fees, but there is risk involved with this. And so as the price has gone lower, it's well below the minimum price of our range, which was $18.50, which you can see at the bottom of the screen, currently at $15.91. We're 100% ETH, and the lower that ETH goes, the more that our liquidity value up here is going to go down. But maybe, Shelley, it could go back up.
I'm thinking it will.
I hope
Not
so.
financial advice, but hoping so, because I have many pools that are just sitting out of range.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been rough.
Yeah.
If it does go back up, what happens here is that this automatically kicks back on, I guess is the way that you might think about it. And we begin providing liquidity within that range on the Uniswap exchange, specifically on the Base blockchain network. That's an Ethereum L2 from Coinbase, and specifically within the ETH USDC pool on that chain. Now, not so much.
I want you to walk through how you choose which pool you're going to participate in. Like, first, which pairs are you looking at and why? And then once you've identified your pair, how do you decide which pool to get into?
Absolutely. So the way that I want to think about that is in liquidity terms as well. I personally want to provide liquidity in a pool where there's a lot of activity. There's volume and trading activity, obviously, but there's also a decent amount of TVL, total value locked, right? So that's going to give me a sense of, again, activity, but the fact that there's ample liquidity in the pool, that's where I want to participate. Where other people are providing liquidity, where there's trading volumes that are going through there, and it's going to be in many cases a little bit less volatile. I want to stick to pools that are, at least personally, primarily going to be dollar based. So ETH versus USDC, wrap Bitcoin versus USDC, versus like ETH and pick your favorite meme coin. I'll pick on DGen for a second. I have provided liquidity in that pool. You have the ETH volatility and you have the DGen volatility. Sometimes the prices are correlated, sometimes they aren't.
Yeah.
And it can get pretty violent pretty quickly as a result.
What's the shortest pool you've ever run in time? Meaning like you were just like in and then out.
Probably ETH, DGen over a weekend. And this is at a point in time where when you're in some of these, it really works a lot better, obviously, when the prices are just ripping higher. Mm-hmm. So you might go out of range on the upside, and maybe you missed out on some gains if you look at it in comparison to just holding one of the tokens. But in a bullish environment where ETH's going up or maybe DGen's going up more, you have a higher beta asset in that sense. Those can be pretty profitable pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I think if I recall, and I maybe had like $5 or $6 grand in the pool and within days made 500 or 600, which you can do that in a lot of different ways in the markets and in trading. It's not a huge number, but just for a liquidity pool and the return, benefiting from the volatility.
It's a good weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. You just get fooled into thinking that's like the
regular
status quo.
Yeah. You can do this all the time.
And then you lose $1,500 on the next day, you know. But let's get back to the pools. Here's how I would think about it, or maybe what you want to look at. So you're providing liquidity. You have to pick a chain. We're on Base. We've primarily been on Base because there's a lot of activity there, but also because there's really low fees. Previously, for years, I provided liquidity on Ethereum, layer 1. But it's expensive. And so it can be, you can get into a situation where it's just not really economical. And you have, a finite amount of capital, but you're spending $100 to put on the pool. And maybe that's changed. Gas fees have come down a little bit. But at times where there's a ton of activity, it can be really expensive. Then it's going to take a little bit longer for you to recoup those initial costs or those gas fees. So pick your chain, and you can see TVL, you can see volume across the different chains. But what we want to do to analyze this is go to the Explore page or tab of the Uniswap app. And then we're looking at tokens. So you can see trading activity across those individual tokens on the exchange. We want to look at pools. And then over here, we want to look at one specific chain. So if we're just sticking with Base, we can do that. We can compare similar pools across chains as well. But let's go to Base. And then you can sort by TVL, total value locked. I'd prefer most of the time to be in something that's on a relative basis, is going to have some liquidity in it, some value locked in it, I suppose. You can look at the annual percentage rate based on the one-day activity. So that's going to be variable. It's going to shift dramatically at times. And then you want to look at the one-day volume and then the 30-day volume. And then what I want to see is just a high turnover in the pool. If we make money by collecting fees when people trade,
you want people trading.
Exactly. So you can measure that by looking at, how big is the pool and then what is the notional trading volume. So if I have a pool that is, we'll just say $10 million in TVL and there's $100 million in trading volume, presumably that's a pretty profitable pool. There's other things to consider. There's risks, of course. You're implicitly short volatility. But again, there's a lot of trading activity. There should be subsequently a lot of fees. So that's one way to look at it. I have no idea what this is. AETX. Are you familiar with this?
I'm not.
Okay. Maybe somebody knows. Maybe it might be related to Aerodrome. I'm not sure.
There on my screen.
Yeah, I don't know why that has so much TVL in there. Oh, you're having a hard. You can't see it.
I can't see the screen. Yeah, it's just glared right there. Let me see if I can.
Well, I can read off what we have here. 346 million in TVL here. So I'm not super familiar with what this one is. If anybody knows the AETX token, but going back to where we just were, ETH USDC and the rest of these pools here, you can see ETH USDC, as you might assume, is on the base chain the second largest to USDC AETX, but typically has been one of the larger pools. Now, there's not a ton of value that's locked in here in terms of assets that have been deposited into the pool or into the contract, but we're looking at a pool that has a TVL of 13 million and has a 30-day volume of 1.2 billion. It's pretty good. So we've had a lot of volatility. Likely, you put a pool on, and like we did, you see that the price was, let's call it 2,000 at that time, 1,850 on the downside. Now all of a sudden the price of ETH is at 1,500. It can move quickly. It could go right back up just as fast. We shall see. But if you're in the pool right now, this is the fee that's charged to the traders that are swapping using that pool or drawing on that liquidity.
I can't see your cursor, so what are you?
5 basis points.
Okay.
And then you look at the APR currently, it's almost 67% annualized. Pretty good, right? I mean, you're going to make almost $7,000 on a $10,000 pool. That's not going to be a fixed rate, but that's a pretty insane return. And people believe that it's not possible to do these sorts of returns. Well, it still is in liquidity pools. People call these things Ponzi schemes. No, this is a real thing. There might be many other kind of enticing yields and things that okay, where does the yield come from? It's not real or it isn't true. That does exist in not just crypto, but in many things. But here, this is simply just derived from trading activity. And we're showing you that it's a pool that's got, call it $13 million in it, and it's got over $1 billion in volume. In the last day, it did almost $50 million in volume. So if you're in that and you are providing liquidity within that defined price range, you're receiving a good chunk of those fees because this pool is getting hit and liquidity is being drawn on it quite frequently, given what we're seeing. So that's how I start to think about, is there an opportunity in one of these or the other? If I have a small amount of capital, I might want to participate in a smaller pool because I'm going to be a larger portion of the overall aggregate liquidity. And as a result, I'm going to receive more fees. But there's other variables to consider as well. It's not just let's pick the smallest pool. Well, the smallest pool in terms of TVL might also be the most volatile.
Right.
Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it isn't. But something to consider.
Since we're running out of time, Jose has a question for you. Have you done any LP on Solana? And if you have, what DeFi have you used?
I haven't done anything recently, but a long time ago, I provided liquidity to Jupiter Exchange. I think, some of these use much different models or kind of have a different way to interact with them versus the approach that we've described on Uniswap. So go and check those out. But yes, you can provide liquidity to Radium. You can provide liquidity to Jupiter. There's other exchanges that you can provide liquidity to. You'll see that this is a mechanism that exists in perpetual futures and some decentralized exchanges there. Trying to think what else comes to mind. I mean, even on Base, Aerodrome, it's going to be a little bit different experience than the interactions and the way that we've talked about providing liquidity on Uniswap through the automated market maker there. But if there's trading activity on a decentralized exchange, there's likely there is a way to, as the user, provide liquidity to that exchange and participate in the fees, the rewards, to benefit from that.
And then Michael, so the liquid goes in the pool? Yes.
Yes.
You put your coins in there, people use them, you earn a fee.
I love it. Just jumping back to this one more time, we are out of range. So anybody that might be new to this, if you want to learn more about liquidity pools, we have a decent amount of content on this on the Tasty Crypto YouTube channel. So get over there, subscribe to the channel, and check it out. We'll talk about this in more detail going forward. But you're basically providing liquidity for trading purposes on the exchange, and you define how you concentrate that liquidity within a range. Similar risk profile for options traders that are out there as a strangle. But basically, you want the price to stay within the range. If it goes above, you have sold out of all of your ETH in this case, so it's like a covered call. Now I just have dollars. The price of ETH keeps going up. Let's say it goes to 3,000. I don't benefit from that in the same way that I would if I held ETH. Very similar to a covered call. Then on the downside, it's like a short put. So you are going to be buying ETH as it moves lower and lower within this range until you've used all the dollars or USDC that you started with, and you've bought all the ETH that you can with those dollars at those current prices. Below 1850, you're just long ETH. You can see that at the top here, 100% ETH in terms of the makeup of our pool. Current market price, if this keeps going lower, we have that exposure to ETH. So it's no different than you take assignment of 100 shares of stock, sold the put at X strike, it keeps going lower from there where you were signed, you're going to lose money, at least on paper, unless it goes back up. We're hoping that this goes back up. We get back within that 1850 to 2244 range. We're providing liquidity again to anybody that's swapping on the exchange, and we are going to start to generate more fees versus the $5.90 in fees that we did generate while this was in range.
And for any normies in the house, when we're saying ETH, here you're seeing WETH, which is just wrapped ETH.
Yes.
And we don't say it like Ryan, because he says WETH.
WETH. You can say it however you want.
No, you cannot. Don't do that. Don't be like Ryan.
That's funny. Yeah, I'll never forget the day I learned out that I say a lot of things incorrectly.
It's okay. We all do. But that one I will make fun of you forever.
You can hold it against me.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Shelley, thanks for coming on the show and hanging out with me here in the studio. And thanks to Lone Sophos for the nice comment. Thank you for another great show. Thank you all for showing up and hanging out with us here on the Tasty Crypto Show. Beans is off on Friday. We're off on Friday. It's Good Friday. So if you're off on Good Friday as well, hope you enjoy the long weekend. We'll be back on Monday with Beans on the Tasty Crypto, what I call Tasty Crypto Network, on the Tasty Crypto YouTube channel. And again, in the afternoon, 4:30 Central Time, on the Tasty Live Network with the Tasty Crypto Show. Yeah, we got to work on that.
You got all that?
I think so. But that's going to do it for our show. Until then, I'm Ryan.
I'm Shelley.
Peace.